I'm about to make a game with art built out of real-life Legos. At the end, 3 of my friends are going to rate the game out of 10, and if the result is 5 or below, I'm going to have to do a forfeit of their choice. The first step to making any game is the idea. For this game, I wanted an entirely new idea that's never been done before, so I chose a game where you press space to jump between platforms and try not to die, which is totally unique. Now it's time to begin making the art. For this game, I need 4 art pieces. The sky, a platform, a player, and a cloud. For the sky, I just took a light blue block and that was it. I basically did the same thing for the platform, and I just put a bunch of white pieces together for the cloud. The player, however, was more difficult. I had to begin by selecting colors, which was surprisingly difficult considering I had almost no options. I chose a red shirt with blue jeans and white sneakers. I then built the torso, which was sort of pathetic, but it got the job done, so I moved on to the head. Here's where it went downhill. The shape was very blocky, and I chose not to give him a face because honestly, who needs one anyway? I had very limited space too, so I had to make some compromises for the greater good. I wanted to give him a mullet, but sadly it was out of the question as I couldn't find nearly enough blocks for that. Next was the legs, because it's pretty hard to jump without legs. These were pretty simple, and the feet were even easier. I made one of them be higher up than the other so I could animate it, but then I forgot to animate it, so it's just permanently got a shorter leg. Finally, it was time for the arms, and I think it's pretty obvious that this guy has been working out. So now with the art done, it was time to somehow get it into Godot. I took photos of all the art pieces, and I proceeded to spend 20 minutes manually cutting out the background. After that was done, I was ready to put it into Godot. After making sure everything worked, scaling and rotating it, I was finally ready to code the game. To start, I made a player. It may seem like it would be easy to create such a simple character controller who can literally just jump, but it was not. I had to remake this 5 times before I got it to work, partially because of a buggy Godot function. So now you can jump, but I still need to add something for you to jump on. Somehow, creating the platforms was even harder than creating the player. The platforms are pretty simple, they just move left at a steady rate and the player can jump on them. To build the sky, I created a tile map and added the sky art as a tile, and then covered the screen in them. It honestly looked kind of cool, which was highly unexpected. Now, without infinite platforms spawning, you had no game. I created a script to spawn random platforms, which relied on choosing a random number every frame, and if it was an exact number of 53, it would spawn a new platform. But there were a lot of issues with this system. The platforms would spawn inside each other, which caused them to get pushed up and cover the entire screen. They also stopped moving if they hit the player, which of course destroyed the entire game. I fixed the second issue by making the player die if they touched the side of a platform. The first issue was more difficult, so I ignored it. But then I noticed an even larger bug. The player seemed to randomly be losing all his momentum and teleporting around. I tried a bunch of fixes in the player and platform code, but nothing changed. Since the only remaining code was the script responsible for spawning platforms, I knew that had to be the problem, so I had to remake it in a different way. So now, instead of spawning new platforms, I made the initial 2 platforms teleport back when they went off screen. I slightly randomized where they spawned, which made the game much more interesting. I also noticed an interesting bug, which allowed the player to jump in midair instead of on a platform, but I decided to keep it because otherwise some of the jumps were actually impossible. As a finishing touch, I added these clouds that slowly float past, which really made the game look 10 times better, and now it was complete. So now, for the moment of truth. It was time to see whether I had succeeded or whether I had to do a forfeit. The 3 people voting in this video are Sam, Barigamb, and Evan Does Dev. I sent them each a gameplay clip, and the verdict came in. Sam and Evan's votes had averaged 6.5, so unless Bari gave me a 2, I would be fine. Finally, his rating came in. Bari had voted 6.5, which meant I had an average of 6.5, so I didn't have to do a forfeit. I'm honestly sort of disappointed because a forfeit would have been extremely funny in this video, but I guess I'm just too good at art. If you liked this video, you'll almost certainly enjoy this next one where I used MS Paint to create art for my game. Subscribe!